Okay. Hey, welcome everyone. This is Peace is Built Through Communication. This is our monthly discussion we have here on, now we're live streaming on Facebook, and we have some wonderful participants. And yeah, thank you all for being here. I am so happy you all are here. And this discussion was birthed out of every morning, a group of us on Zoom read the Universal Peace Covenant. And we have been doing that for 1,969 days. And afterwards, some of us stay after and have discussions. We have very insightful topics, and we wanted to carry this out into the world. We want to give everyone the opportunity to know how peace can be built through communication and what insights that can be found from that. So, before we begin, I'm going to ask TJ if he would read a preamble for us that kind of sets the tone for these discussions and what we will be learning here.
Thank you, Stella Lynn. Yes, I can do that.
Wonderful.
And here it is. As it is established in the Universal Peace Covenant, and since peace is indeed built through communication, the open exchange of ideas is necessary for discovery and well being, for growth, for progress, whether within one person or among many. We come together here now in this meeting of hearts and minds to have a spirited discussion. This is an open forum. This is not a class. There are no teachers in Pieces Built Through Communication, which is a live Facebook discussion tonight. In this experience, we establish the reality that we are all equal. We have a moderator who has been chosen prior and chooses now to give of themselves freely and does not wish to push or cajole or manipulate those who join here today or those who might witness this in the future. For this discussion, it is indeed designed to share ideas, experiences, and understandings, and by doing so, come to a greater truth through each one sharing their personal experience with sagacity, with equanimity, both free of prejudice, so that thus we will come to know that peace is liberty and tranquility.
Thank you, TJ. And tonight for our discussion, I wanted to share, it was a topic we were actually having a discussion about this a few days ago, and it prompted me to go a little deeper with this. And I'm a student and a teacher and director of the School of Metaphysics in Indianapolis. And one thing I've learned in my studies, I've been a student and teacher for quite a few years at the School of Metaphysics. And what we learn here, as well as in other traditions as well, in the Bible, the Christian Bible, the complete law. It's referred to as the complete law. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And I was reflecting on this the other day, and I was reflecting on my own experience of that. Like, how do I apply the complete law in my life? What has been my experience prior to even studying here at the school and prior to my spiritual journey? And as well, I've also heard people say like seek God first and put your spiritual life first above all else. And sometimes that's not always as clear to me. I know that it's important for me to have quiet time, time to reflect, time to meditate, time to go a little deeper within myself. And that to me would be seeking ye first. But then sometimes it's not always as clear. And I know everyone has their own journey with it. And I also thought back too, like I have a background in 12-step programs. And way back when I made a frantic call to Al-Anon, which is a 12-step program that helps friends and family members of alcoholics adjust and be able to, learn more about their loved one and what they're going through. They told me back then, you got to put this first. You can't put your job first. You can't put your family. You've really got to have this as a foundation so you know what steps to take so you're clear-headed. And I was like, okay, great. And I took steps toward that. Yes, I also see that sometimes within myself that I can question that. I'm like, am I really following higher power, God, or source's will for my life? Now, I generally find that when I feel peace, which is, where we gather together in the morning to read the Universal Peace Covenant, when I'm in a peaceful state of mind and I feel calm about my decisions, I found that is seeking ye first. And generally, when I feel confused or I feel rushed or I feel like maybe I'm allowing other people to influence me, then it's not quite as peaceful. So, I would just like to hear some of all of your stories as well. I guess I could start with a story of my own. I could even have a short one from last night. One of the things I do, besides the school of physics, I'm involved in, I drive Uber. And I went and I drove a little bit last night, and then I pulled over, took a little break, and started writing. And I was like planning to go out and, drive some more. And I was like, well, it's really important that I spend this time writing. So I chose to do that. And I was okay. I used some reasoning. I'm like, okay, financially, I'm okay. And I think I can take this time. So to me, that was like seeking you first, because there were some things that were coming up for me that I hadn't expressed. And so I was, writing it out in a letter, almost a letter to myself. So that felt pretty good. I felt like I was seeking God first and seeking the plan for me in that moment. So sometimes it's pretty clear like that. Other times, maybe not as much. And I know we all have different things we're passionate about, different, you know, paths we're taking. So, yeah, I would just like to open up the discussion with that. So, everyone's experience for like seeking ye first. So, what that exactly means to you, and how has it developed in your life?
Well, if I'm looking from the standpoint of how we actually uh, use it in the school, it's not religion. It's not religious. I want to make sure people who are listening to this know that we read the Bible, but what we do with it is we interpret it, um, and what we call the universal language of mind. So we take the pictures and the images from the words and look at them from a deeper perspective. And so the thought form that is rising for kingdom of heaven is superconscious mind. So it's the highest understanding that we have, the what is closest to God that is within all of us. We we call that superconscious mind. So we can share later on a an image, or maybe somebody could find it. I don't know, of a mind triangle, so we can have a picture. Maybe that would help. But the thought, that's the way that I have been taught it, I guess. And so that's what I've tried to understand whenever I hear it called the complete law, because there's also other laws. There's many laws. So there's universal laws that we're talking about when we say the complete law. There's lots of other what we call universal laws, like the law of prosperity and the law of abundance, and um, some other ones, law of cause and effect, the law of divine birthright, which is very closely related to the complete law. But I guess the way that it strikes me is when I think about that and I put my attention on seeking. I'm just thinking about it as you were talking. So I was like, oh man, I wish it said find, you know, rather than seek, because it doesn't seem like it is complete if you're just seeking. I've never had that thought before right now. But it's like I would like for it to say, be the kingdom of, of heaven, or the power of the kingdom of heaven, or understand the kingdom of heaven, or live the kingdom of heaven, or live in the kingdom of heaven, rather than seek. Because it's like I don't know. There's other parts to the passage too, because that's why it says, "And all these things will be added unto you." So, what are these things? that it's talking about. I feel like we should hold that up too, I guess. Be a good idea to actually, um, understand it completely. You know what I mean? So we can see the whole picture. So if somebody can do that, that'd be great. Um, but for me, yeah, so superconscious mind, understanding that depth and that clarity and that picture and that image of who I came to the physical to be. Why am I here? Why am I even? Why do I exist at all? Is what it makes me think about. So I can filter that as much as I can through normal experiences, but they always seem like they don't. There's something missing, maybe. Like they don't always pay off, right? Separateness or separation or the thinking process that might say, I am, there's others, you know. There's this, there's two things that are coming to my mind now. There's this is it Native American, I am another yourself? I don't know where that comes from, but that's like it's a phrase. Or is it namaste? Is that namaste? I think that's what namaste means.
Um, Namaste, the
No, it
divinity.
means I praise the God and you are the light in you
Mhm.
as it is in me. That's what namaste means. So all of that thought process is coming to me, right? The Native American idea of, um, and also the definition of namaste. And then there's this other quote that's coming to my mind too by Krishnamurti. I think somebody asked him, "How do we love others?" And he said, "There are no others." And so for this, trying to drop this deep into myself and trying to fully receive what all of this means, it just, to me, I can only understand it as not, is coming away from, because sometimes, I mean, who doesn't see themselves as separate, right? Or as a thing other than of myself. I'm over here by myself. I'm not everybody. And so anytime that process starts, I think that's when I have to seek. So I guess that's why it says seek, right? Because I have to get out of there. I have to get out of this separateness. So then I seek the kingdom of heaven. I seek the understanding of wholeness and oneness. Um, yeah, so that's thoughts I have right now. I'll pull up that stuff. Look
Okay.
like since I'm the one thinking about it, nobody else seems too excited about it.
I
What,
pulled one, but
um,
Melissa, would you like to uh, have a comment, or would you like to?
I don't know. The thing that came to me was being still. I mean, I know when things for me get um, a little, when the path kind of gets a little shaky, and I feel like for me, or what I'm learning about this journey for myself is that it's that stillness really helps me get into that place of being able to, I don't know, not feel as separate, if that makes sense. I don't know. Because it's still a learning process for me as far as you know, being one with my, I'm still it's all learning, but that was the first thing that popped in my mind, and then surrender to letting go of the things. Those are the two things that immediately I was like, um, I I don't know, I just find really helpful in situations like trying to seek or trying to find that part of that stillness really for me is what brings me closer to feeling a part of my higher self. So that's what those were the first things that popped into my mind, because that's all I was going to contribute. So
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Yes, yeah, stillness is really important. whenever I find myself like rushing around or busy or that do, I got so much to do when I start hearing those thoughts in my,
Mhm.
okay, okay, just slow down and just be present, because that's really what I'm seeking when I'm feeling the most connected is when I'm present. And it's almost, well, it is, I want to say addictive. It's like an addictive quality to be busy or to be like rushing around and frantic. And when I'm in that kind of state, I feel that separateness. I feel like separate. I feel like, so I want to say even small. So it's so beneficial no matter what's going on. That's the thing. I know outside circumstances and conditions can seem like they're always trying to beg for our attention. And, giving ourselves that space to be still is very important. No matter where we are, what we're doing. I don't know, Nick, did you want to share? Would you like to add some thoughts on what Seek Ye First means to you? Or
Like super conscious or remote viewing heaven up there, and well, it's or what the Herod Kingdom gone. I may have or not have witnessed that in some of my dream aspects, and I was able to review some parts of that from my new remote scrying exercises. I was able to see heaven in the higher branch of it, and it was very colorful. And there's this big utopia city up there in the stars in heaven. And I was able to remote view it and super conscious.
okay, so
The
you're
power not just in that place.
sounds like you had an experience with superconscious mind. You'll be able to review that. So did you feel very peaceful when you had that
I
experience?
did, yes, and I saw angelic wings in my astral body flying up there too as well.
Oh, and I know your dreams, you have pretty expansive dreams as well.
I do, yes, and some high mind experiences sometimes. So yes.
Oh, so that's another way I experience, um, getting closer to our higher self and closer to God
That's great.
or source or whatever that is. Thank you.
Okay.
TJ, would you like to add and share?
Sure. I looked at the rest of the chapter before we came on here, and and really flows really well. For me, whether I'm thinking about it almost literally or uh, looking deeper into its meaning. And so, to me, kind of easy to get mixed up in the words a little bit and thinking about like this heaven and religion and God from the things that I was taught in religion, which aren't necessarily right or wrong, but there has been a different way to look at it. Not sure what's going on here, but to me, as I read the rest of the chapter before the seek ye first the kingdom of God verse or instruction, I saw that uh, it was really painting a contrast for me um, in the difference between uh, lower self and higher self, or illusion and truth. And it continues to go back and forth between, seeking the, kind of what we would call lower desires. Now, I don't want to get, I don't want to make that like good, bad, kind of lower, higher. They just simply are different places and different experiences. So when I say lower self, I'm thinking of what we do in the physical. As a matter of fact, Terrence Lamont, kind of raised the question, what are these other things, that are mentioned? And they are things like worrying about what to eat or what I'm going to wear or, things of that sort. How am I going to make money? How am I going to get about in the world? Those things aren't necessarily wrong. As a matter of fact, the fact that those things will be added tells us that they aren't wrong. Um, but those are kind of like outside things. And, so another way to look at lower and higher is inside and out.
Mhm.
And so, outside of ourselves, we do have a physical experience. We do have, I think someone mentioned like experiencing separation versus knowing that we're all one. So when we're outside, when we look outside of ourselves, to me, and I see like another person, sitting in the room or, sitting, here on Zoom or YouTube or something like that, I'm like, that's another person. But, when I bring it back, inside myself, and so that's the outside. When I bring it back inside myself, I do get to contemplate, that oneness, and I do, get to
Can you
find a
see
deeper
this?
connection with my higher self. Um, and so for me, and I think Terrence Lamont, kind of said that's like the closest place that we can, meet or hear the voice of God. Or so that's where, seeking that kingdom first, uh, fits for me when I'm looking at it from in a deeper meaning. But earlier I said it kind of didn't even matter, right? So even if I was looking at that, from the way I was taught it in religion, it's still seeking, the a greater good for myself and the people around me. And when I seek those things, then I don't have to worry about what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to wear, where I'm going to get food, and all of those things. They just simply naturally take place in some form or fashion without me having to worry about them. I think, in one of those discussions that you mentioned, we have usually in the morning. Uh, I was kind of joking around and saying, but most of us seek the other things and not the kingdom. Like, so, and that is common, and it's kind of naturally common because if most of our existence is outside of ourselves, then we're going to seek to fulfill those desires. We're going to experience the separation. We're going to worry about what we're going to eat, what we're wearing, and all of those things. And so, this principle is a complete law. And we talked about, Terrence Lamont also mentioned the universal laws. And, one of the functions of those that I found is basically to know how to move about in the world, how to um, do the things that I want to do, how to find fulfillment in life. And to me, those are the things that are seeking the kingdom of God. Is finding the true fulfillment in life. The truest fulfillment for me, has been seeking out what's real. As a matter of fact, earlier in this chapter, it talks about, and just to be clear, and I think Terrence Lamont had it pulled up there for a second. This is found in Matthew chapter 6. I
Yeah,
don't think,
I can just
yeah,
share the screen right now.
yeah, you can share it back up. So Matthew chapter 6, we keep referring to the scripture, the chapter, and where it is. But that's where it's found. If you have a copy of the Bible, uh, I encourage you to just kind of look at this chapter and let it settle into yourself. Um, and it doesn't matter whether or not you practice Christianity. I think that it's valuable for anyone that takes a look at it. That's been my experience anyway, because that's what I'm here to share is my experience with this. So, yeah, earlier in this chapter, it talks about, where do you store your treasures? And it talks about the light of the eye, or yeah, the eye, and keeping it simple and keeping it focused on what is the most true for you. And that's different for everybody, in my experience. But what's most true for you is going to be your kingdom of God that you're seeking. Um, and it compares that to storing up treasures in heaven versus storing up, treasures elsewhere, outside again. So outside, we experience separation, deterioration, death. A lot of us don't like to talk about that. But ultimately, those things, in my experience, aren't real. because life goes on, people go on. That's not a very popular opinion, but I found it to be true, and I found it to be comforting as well. um, not only that, the separation is an illusion. We're all one. And yes, things in the physical deteriorate, but what this principle, this complete law is telling us is that when we seek what's most true for us, then it stays. It does not deteriorate. And that's why it says moth and rust do not consume. When your attention is there, and that's what it's talking about with the eye is the attention. And so, in really practicing that principle for myself, I found it true that I didn't need to worry about other things. I feel that my desires are fulfilled. Even, the ones that I would call outer desires or lower self, uh, goals that I have in life for this body, which is not my eternal self. And that's fine. Again, because those desires aren't necessarily bad because they're not the kingdom of God. The complete law that we're referencing here tells us that these things will be added. So it wouldn't add as a reward for you seeking the kingdom of God something that's bad, in my opinion. So I've talked for a long time. I'll yield back, for the moment.
So I'll read some of this. Says, let's see. So it starts out Matthew 6. This is the King James version. There's many different ways of, the Bible's been interpreted, but here we have the King James version. And it says, Take heed that ye do not. Well, this is the bad interpretation, isn't it? If somebody messed up there, that doesn't make any sense. So let's go to number 2. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. So this is Jesus speaking to his disciples, I think, or he's teaching, right? And he says, But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth. And then let's jump down a lot of these. So let's jump down here to 20. Or how about 19? Lay not up for yourself treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. Now, I think a little lower is where I think he was referencing what people were worried about. So it says, Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather in barns. I've been thinking about that a lot as I sit on the porch and watch birds. Yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they? He says, and then he goes on, Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? Therefore take no thought, saying, What shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for the morrow should take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. So I have to admit that as this is taught in the school of metaphysics, nobody has ever done that for me. Read more of the chapter. It's just that we try to interpret what we think that one phrase means. But it's obvious that we need to know what is he talking about before we can really dive into it, right? So that was super valuable for me. I really don't remember the last time I've actually read that. So that for me, it gives a different perspective. Now I'm clearer. I feel much, much more clear about what it is that he's asking us to do, instructing us.
Yeah, thank you for reading that. I am clear, more clear as well, because as you're reading that, what I thought well, I thought about first what I've learned through the School of My Physics about how thoughts can produce things and how our thoughts can manifest in the physical. And so if I'm having thoughts of, and I inferred this like, this is what take no care. I think he said that. Take therefore no thought for the morrow. For the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. So if I'm always projecting into the future, what about tomorrow? I mean, we plan stuff and I plan stuff, but if I'm always like worried in a worry thought, or what if this, or what's that person going to think, blah, 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 or about yesterday, then I'm really not present. And yeah, and the excessive thinking doesn't do me any good. Sometimes I used to say I'm addicted to thinking. It's like just thinking to be thinking.
Hold on, let me overthink this.
Right. Yeah, I'll figure it out. And so with that whole passage, I don't see those things. Think, think, think. So for me, yeah, I think what Melissa had alluded to earlier and about the stillness, when I become still, I give myself the space, whether that be going to a park. I like to go to parks and I like to walk, and nature's good, or it can be really anywhere. Then I can receive from my higher self in that still small voice. Because another thing that I'm thinking, reflecting on, that can bring apart or bring upon confusion is
Right.
other people's experiences. And I've noticed myself going to other people, what do you think? See about thing, no pun intended. And they'll give me plenty of stuff. And they'll say, well, no, that's not correct. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing so, and supposedly they're spiritual people and even teachers, and I just say that. And so I get confused if I take that too much to heart, instead of like, okay, maybe they have some good things to say and I can use that, but let me go get quiet. And then I can receive,
That's the key, isn't it?
yeah.
That's the key. Because again, in my experience, like I was saying earlier, each person's highest truth and each person's best self is different, and how we get there is different. And to me, I do find value in hearing the experiences of others, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to copy it. I can take the parts of that work best for myself and include them. So I don't. It doesn't have to be like a take it all or leave it all, for me. And it doesn't mean, if their thing doesn't work for me, it doesn't mean their thing is bad, and if it doesn't mean that I'm better or they're better or any of those things. It simply to me means that each person's highest truth and best self are different,
Hmm.
The
and
complete
that's
law.
fine.
It's a hell of a name, isn't it?
It
Hmm.
is.
Complete. Oh.
Okay, so I'll share this too. That's what I was saying earlier. Unless you may have some thoughts you want to share. Um, so then we have the superconscious mind. So if we're interpreting it in the universal language of mind, then this is how we would see uh, the kingdom of heaven, like it has the plans, like what we're talking about. So this is a deep subject. I had no idea how incredibly deep this is, but as we're talking about it, I'm like,
Yes.
and who else is talking about this? Like, where else could you find a discussion like this? I don't know, but it's like this is a super conscious mind, so it's the creator's presence in you. Um, so it's like this is the plan for your existence, right? I mean, what more should we be putting our attention on? I guess I
I
guess
like to
that's where
call it the blueprint.
yeah, I guess that's where the idea of the complete law comes from, is because I can't think of anything that I really should consider as important as that, as knowing the plan, understanding what God has for me. I mean, it has a Christian tone to it, but at the same time, there's a creator in almost every tradition, you know. there's some kind of God in every tradition. So I don't know. This is deep, and really recognize how deep this was. Melissa, you got any thoughts?
I'm on my phone too, so I'm not used to Zoom on my phone. I mean, I don't know. It is very deep, but I enjoy these conversations because it gives the opportunity to go deeper with something that, you don't normally, I mean, normally it's just not brought up. And, I mean, I appreciate this topic because it's such a great learning experience. I, I don't know, I just think it's a really beautiful topic. So that's really where I'm at with it. Um, I don't know. I really, I love whenever we discuss that, we are all one. And it took a long time for me to even recognize what that even meant because it was like, at first, it just felt like that thought felt very foreign to me. But now, I mean, the more that we study or the more that I study this, it's just like, yeah, that is exactly what it is. And I don't know, that's just where I'm at with it. But I really enjoy this. So thank you all for coming
Yeah,
in.
I can. This is everything is this and nothing at all. I guess is one way I'm looking at it. But if I think about my most recent important experience, and I was really going over this in my mind. I was like, what was this? I was walking yesterday and talking on the phone, and I was very attracted to some wild mushrooms. And I was like, oh, those wild mushrooms over there. I don't know what those are because I don't know. I've just been thinking about mushrooms for some reason. And then I see them, and I'm like, oh, those are interesting. So I go over there to where this yard and look at these mushrooms. I say, I wonder if we can eat these. And so I use Lens on Google Lens, right? And I take a picture of it, and I read it, and the AI tells me whatever it tells me, and I'm like, okay. And there was one part on there that I saw. It was way down at the end. It said that it could be a diuretic, and it said you should cook it this way and blah blah blah, and make sure it looks like this, and that's when it's safe to eat. And I'm talking on the phone, and I pull them out of the ground, and I'm just keep talking. I got these mushrooms. I'm going to try these. I got some stuff I want to cook it. Like I'm going to put mushrooms in it. And while I was cooking, I totally spaced out on the accurate way to prepare them as it was instructed. And so I just did it the way I wanted to do it. And so I did it, and it is one of the most powerful diuretics I have ever experienced. I ate a lot of them, and you guys may know about this thing called the Master Cleanse. Somebody may know about that who's watching this. There's something you can do to cleanse yourself out so that you can go in and start to take the supplement. And so I've done that before, and this was pretty much the same experience where my body almost it was stripped of every nutrient or every food particle, that I had. My stomach was free, and totally empty, right? And I was like I didn't have energy, If I'd have been thinking, I would have had the Master Cleanse concoction ready, right? But didn't have it. So I was just like, oh man, I got to sleep. I couldn't even get to the store, because I was so stripped of all my energy, right? And so I was eating bananas, drinking water, and just trying to make it through the day, as most of the day, because that was breakfast. So it was most of the day that I was down, So if you've ever gotten surgery too, sometimes they want you to do that to kind of cleanse yourself out before you have a surgery. So some people you can relate maybe to that experience. So I was like that. I was just wiped, man. And I was like, okay, but I had to do stuff yesterday. And every time I tried to do something with somebody, I tried to talk to somebody in that state, if I was not still, like we're describing, if I was not relaxed and clear, my stomach would start bothering me. But if I was breathing, stilling my mind, slowing down, then I found I could get by with whatever I needed to do. But the second I got a little bit of stress, it was like I started feeling it in my stomach. And I was like, oh, that's all right, watch, stop that, It's like get out of there, get out of that stress bubble. And so I would get out of the stress bubble and then I felt better. I was okay. And so this is like teaching me that what we're talking about can happen in many different ways. But
Yes.
it was the physical, visceral like experience, human experience, and it wasn't a thinking thing. It was like I had to seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, or else I was going to get sick. Like I didn't have a choice. My body was not going to tolerate bullcrap. I couldn't think negatively. I couldn't think fearfully. I couldn't worry about anything. I couldn't get loud. I had, I had to just stay present, or else I was going to get sick. So it was this really interesting experience of like 0 point type, you know, um, energy. It was just super interesting. So I guess that's the best story I can tell right now because I feel like I could say a lot of different things, but that was really, it was human, you know, it was very, very present.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing it. Yeah. And that experience, it sounded like, well, you did say you needed to be still. Because
Yeah.
you did nothing else, then, yeah, throw you off more. I just throw you.
And the funny thing to me in that is, when is that not true?
That's what I'm saying. But you
Right.
can hide though, right?
Yeah.
When you got the toxins and the whatever,
Yeah.
the fakeness, you can hide behind it, right? And not be your real self. But in this case, I didn't have any.
You
I
didn't
had
have that choice, right?
no. Oh,
And I think, yeah, the thing that jumps out to me in this story, talking about, picking up on the experience of others, is that, yeah, the thing is, we just don't feel the immediate effects, but we still get sick, right? Stuff still happens because we're not still and not doing, that thing that we're supposed to do because we're out here, doing all this worrying and all this other running around and thing. That has effects down the road. It's just that on that particular day, you felt them immediately,
immediate.
physically. uh, and so, yeah, for me, I mean, and this is super valuable. The greatest thing I can take away from that story to make my own is I might not feel it right now, but if I'm not still, and there are going to be times when we're not still. That's just, I mean, that's the nature of who we are, where we are, and that's fine. But there is an effect to it, and so when the effects come, then I don't really have to wonder why is this thing happening to me. I know that it's because of some moment where I wasn't still and I wasn't my best self. I wasn't, the most true. And again, that's fine because that's where we are and what we do in the earth, right? That's what we came here to learn these things, to have these experiences. And so it's just kind of counterproductive to feel guilty about them.
Mm,
But it is productive to take the lesson from them and learn how to be our best self versus just beating ourselves up. There's no productiveness in that.
right. And then we can have, I think, what this is a very interesting discussion. I wish Winston was here because he could round it out in a different way. But with what Nick was saying earlier, the experience, sharing his experience, that's when
Yes.
you can have those experiences, right? When you let all that go and you are still in present, that's when you can have those deep experiences that Nick often tells us about. Um, and then if I was going to try to speak for Winston, who's normally here, if you're sometimes you don't know. We don't know something. I know that sometimes things are natural, right? For me, coming into the School of Metaphysics, I had a lot of natural understandings, a lot of things that I didn't need to be taught. There was no, it was not necessary at all. I already got that. I knew that, as a human being internally. I don't know where my ancestry, my spiritual things I've done in my life as a soul, beyond this lifetime, everything, whatever. I came with something, right? And then there were some things I needed to be taught. So if Winston was here, I'm sure he would be giving Nancy Hayek a shout out, his teacher that he had for a long time, who probably helped him to be still, who showed him something like the different exercises that we picked up from, from a lot of different places that we do now. As the School of Metaphysics is, 52 years old. We didn't invent consciousness. The School of Metaphysics didn't invent concentration. It didn't invent exercises, mental, spiritual exercises. So as we picked up things, one of the exercises that we do, we call the candle exercise. And that really is getting to the crux of what we're talking about when you sit with that exercise and get really focused and still and listen to yourself and watch your thoughts. And those are moments where you can find the truth when you're doing what I was describing with the sickness. You can do that without getting sick. It is possible. But you got to be honest with yourself. It's too easy to not be honest in this world that we've created.
It's so easy that when people are really honest, they call it radical honesty.
Yeah.
There's nothing radical about honesty. It's our natural state.
Yeah.
But if we want to call it radical and that makes you do it, sure. It's radical honesty.
It's like it makes you, it shakes you, right? It makes you crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. This has been a beautiful discussion. We usually try to wrap it up around an hour.
Well, we actually haven't been here for an hour yet because you started so a little late.
Oh, you know what? We did. We can take a few more
Probably go
minutes.
another 10 or 15.
Yes.
Yeah. This is interesting because I'm struggling to come up with real stories that I feel comfortable with, that I'm like, yeah, that's a good story to really capture what we're talking about. I don't know if y'all are having that experience.
Well, I was just thinking, yeah, a little bit. And then we were saying radical honesty. I just think that was how we say that when it's just being honest. And how do we add to that?
Radical honesty.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really not gonna lie to myself.
It's like, how does honesty have degrees?
Yeah.
Right?
I'll be a little honest, maybe a little dishonest.
Yeah, I'll be a little honest.
That's why we have terms like little white lies.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, it's just a little lie. It's not like a big lie. I think, as far as like stories and experiences go, I mean, this is the main subject of, seeking the kingdom first is so expansive. I think that's maybe why we just don't have definite specific stories, of that. But I was thinking of one a few minutes ago and it kind of went away. But it had a little bit more to do with the verse that follows, which I think Terrence Lamont, read a moment ago, that said not to be worrying about, what's going on tomorrow. And it's kind of, I mean, he told the story that's connected to it already, which is, that kind of, you need to be in the present moment, and, not pushing forward or looking back, so much. There's nothing wrong with planning, and there's nothing wrong with remembering what happened, especially, if we're taking, life lessons from it, and taking that to and being our best self with it. As a matter of fact, I found a great deal of benefit in reflecting on, life lessons and things of that sort, memories. I found great benefit in, planning, what's to come, but also in being flexible in those things, right?
Yeah.
especially in the planning part of that. Because if I'm so, focused on, some physical thing, and I can miss like the actual gift, right? And to me, that's where the being present comes in, and kicks into that. So there's nothing wrong with looking forward, but also, remember where you are. But for me, anyway, that's been beneficial. There's so many times where I thought, something should be one way, and it turns out that the thing that's going to make me my best self was over here. And a really clear example of that right now is I live in Springfield, Missouri. I didn't live in Springfield, Missouri, 15 years ago. When that happened, it was really a chain of very present events that any one link in that chain would have radically changed, where I am in my life now. It was a pivotal time. And it is most certainly not how I thought things were going to go, or not even, what I had hoped for, wished for, or planned for at all. Um, I lived in Tennessee, and I didn't have any thoughts of moving somewhere else or finding a different job or different career path or any of those things. But all of those things happen, I think, because, if we want to talk about stories and experience, because at that time I was very, very, very present, and I was very focused on being my best self. As a matter of fact, I was so focused on that because I was recovering from something else. And I wanted to be myself again. Was my focus at that time. So it was really about getting back to the basics. Um, and guess what? All these other things were added. That's my story.
Yeah. Life is interesting, isn't it? Yeah. It's like when you really try to look at it and you try to understand it, I think that there's infinite uh, qualities and positive things that really come up when you really think about it.
Yeah, I can add a little bit of hyperbole to that and say, like what I actually have, I wouldn't trade for the biggest dream that I had then. It's so much better.
Yeah.
I can say that too, just insights and where I am today. Even when seemingly, and we all have these seemingly, I say seemingly, they seem to be challenges, whether it be relationship, family, work, health, and some can be pretty challenging. But there's, um, I don't, again, we're not a religious school, but I saw that scripture is coming up. It's all things work together for good for those who
Mhm.
love the Lord, who are called according to his purpose. And there's probably more in that context. Um, but
Definitely is.
but there, I do think things work out for the highest good. Everything does. And sometimes, or actually all times, I think of this path, or why didn't this work out? Oh, everything was so perfect, or this could have worked in this way, whatever it is. But
Yeah, I try to ask myself, what is the benefit when I get into the reports? If I ask a question, I'm going to get into the reports tomorrow.
mm,
Um, a lot of times I take whatever the experience is, whether I think it's negative or positive, and I try to say, what is the benefit of this? You know, because everything has a benefit. There's always light, and there's always dark, and there's beauty in both.
mhm.
Yeah.
So it's like, but when what becomes difficult is the ability to see it, right? To really
Yeah.
honestly receive it for what it is.
Yeah, I like that. What is the benefit? Because there is a benefit, of course. again, that comes back to being still and we receive that benefit.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, I got it. I'm like, oh no, I don't. It'll slip through my fingers. But there really is. I mean, we always say life is about learning, and um, yeah. I mean, sometimes I'm like, yeah, I like to just have that learning without the struggle, so to speak, or the uncomfortability, because I don't really want to say it's just, yeah, uncomfortability.
That's an illusion.
Well, ultimately, it
I
all
kid.
becomes,
I kid.
well, it does. Ultimately, it all becomes an illusion. If looking at the mind triangle again, you see the line, the long line that goes all the way across.
Mhm,
That denotes the idea of separation. This
mhm,
long line here,
mhm,
it's that states that once you go above that line, then you are more present with, you know, the plan, and then there is wholeness there. There's no separation.
mhm,
But unless you're there with your complete and total conscious awareness, you're going to experience separation
mhm.
and illusion. The hope is that you don't get deluded. That we don't get deluded.
Right.
Yeah. And I think I've always found it important to recognize that illusion doesn't necessarily mean bad. And it doesn't mean that it's kind of like, and I like to talk about the ego this way too. And people hear ego and they're like, oh, bad. I got to crush the ego and I got to conquer it and all of that stuff. But I don't think that's true for either the ego or illusion. But it is to me beneficial to know what's what,
Yeah.
and just awareness. Okay, this is illusion, or oh, this is my ego speaking. It doesn't mean I need to tell it to shut up. Doesn't mean I need to conquer it or anything like that. And same thing with an illusion. Doesn't mean that I need to get rid of it or I need to transcend it. I simply need to know that that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we can wrap up, but yeah, we actually need the illusion or
Mhm.
else we wouldn't be able to learn.
Yeah.
The
So,
separation too, which is, I mean, sounds like what are you talking about? You just said we're all one.
right. Yeah. So I guess that's how we are all one. We're all whole.
Um, and have that experience to realize that experience of separation to realize we're one.
I'd like
Right.
to invite, Nick or Melissa, if you had any kind of closing thought or that you wanted to share, and don't necessarily have to, but if you want to, want to give you the opportunity.
I just want to say thank you. That's it.
Thank you for being here as well.
Yeah. You answered the call.
Mhm.
As some people do.
Okay, I'm muted.
Well, you're unmuted now.
Yeah, I am. You asked me to unmute myself.
Well, yeah, if you wanna say a closing thought.
No, I don't have anything to say at the time.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for being here as well. Really appreciate the experience that you shared.
Welcome.
It
Thank you for
paints
being
such
here too.
a vivid picture of the peace that comes when we are still. Thank you for that.
This is really great. Thanks, y'all, for everything. Yeah, I really appreciate it. This all around. It's good stuff. What's today? What's this month? The 8th month.
Mhm.
Yes. The eighth
So
one.
this is our second year of doing this, right? I think so.
No.
Yeah. So last year we did once a month. We do once a month, and so this is what helped me out with math. I'm terrible with math. What is that? 20?
24.
How many?
No, this actual episode. This is 20, right?
Well, if it's 2 years, it'll be 24.
No, I mean we started in January though.
Oh, well,
12 and 8,
then
20.
So this is 20, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
20. You're
Yes.
right.
I'm terrible with math, and maybe I'm terrible with explaining things too. But yeah, so this is number 20, pieces built through communication. So I just wanted to chronicle that, just connect us to that.
I also want to invite anybody that's watching this not live. If you're watching it, at a later time, uh, share your thoughts in a comment. It doesn't have to, be like solve all the world's problem comments. Just share what you're thinking. Would love to hear it, love to engage.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, this is great. Thanks, Stella, for giving us this topic.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day.
Yes, and you want to join us in, if anybody watching would like to join us in the morning at 7:30 Central Time, 8:30 Eastern, we read the Universal Peace Covenant on Zoom, and you would go to peacedome.org to register for the Zoom link. And yeah, you can join us once a week, every day. We'd love to have you. And afterwards, we stay around and have these discussions. So again, peacedome.org, and it's 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern AM. Hope to see you there.
And that's our daily. We do that every single day. We don't skip the weekend or anything.
Holidays, all of it.
Even on Melissa's birthday.